Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is MMU Radio, your ultimate multimedia. Okay, your ultimate multimedia teams. And just first, I had to start off with the topic. Yeah, as you know, the last week having a so-called festival. Okay, so why do I just seems like didn't get to the point why the StarCraft 2 or even just mainly RTS genre, real-time strategy genre, being ended so abruptly is because not only I also had class, but also the thing that I found it in the festival is uh, nothing but full of technically you could say crap. Yeah, quite literally I had to fight for my life in the toilet. So yeah, not only that I also had class, but yeah, I digress. Okay, as now I'm going to talk about why the real-time strategy genre is quite underrated in Malaysia. Okay, in Malaysia, first we just speak out the one of the obvious is the fact that well, that's just the lack of marketing in Malaysia. Because the majority of the people in Malaysia not only just having some digital gap, you could say, because it's also back in my middle school, also a lot of students didn't have their own computer. Except, so the cyber cafe, they always go to cyber cafe to play game, and some game like they did, and the cyber cafe didn't promote any game like StarCraft 2, so it's even way lesser to popularity in Malaysia. And of course there's just straight out the lack of marketing. How do I say? Yes, there's no any publicity, no advertisement or all that, so the people wouldn't even know what is StarCraft 2. Like whenever I just talk it to my friend, hey, you play StarCraft 2, and they were like, why this game? Damn, man. So yeah, so one of the so aside from the marketing, there were also another reason I'm going to drag a lot is just the social aspect in the game. For example, that you play something like a team-based game, for example, Counter Strike, League of Legends, the absolute cancer ever. In fact, yeah, and other like I don't know, maybe more casual game like Rocket League or Valorant. No, Valorant is not casual. Yeah. So yeah, so the game like this that promote social aspect is actually quite popular in Malaysia. For example, I also see back when the players unknown battleground were famous, like popular, very popular, and there was so a lot of people around me play it. In fact, I play a bit of it too, although I play it casually, and I also yeah, I kind of like the game. I think it's sad that yeah the company behind it just screwed it up. Okay, and aside from that, okay, let's talk about the social aspect. Although StarCraft 2 technically having a co-op mode and also having a custom mode, but custom mode is just too big because too vague as a game because well, you could edit the StarCraft 2 engine into maybe a card game, maybe a Toho MOBA. Yeah, I'm not joking. That actually happened in StarCraft 2. Yes, and also maybe like a turn-based game. There are a lot to just too vague to explain. And talking about another social aspect is the co-op mode. Well, maybe you could just say that yes, it's still a so like kind of like a social because you could just play with your friend or some stranger. You could just have fun. But the thing is, as far as I know, I don't know about your perception of math, but to me, five is definitely more than two. Because usually the game that promotes social aspect will roughly around five people. Okay, and also the StarCraft versus mode also had the kind of two versus two, three versus three, something like that. But well, I also there is a count the multiplayer versus didn't exist because it just too few people took interest in it. So talk about the co-op, then the co-op is only two people and usually having some repetitive mission. Although there were mutation and all that, but wasn't quite interested in it. So and about other game, maybe like Counter Strike, maybe like League of Legends, you you just straight out couldn't just uh, couldn't just talk a lot about your game because the co-op mode is just straight out too easy in some degree. But about the other multiplayer, so the social aspect when 5v5 you definitely had a team and you had to coordinate, you had to like uh, maybe found out your team strength and weakness and all that, and it's generally rewarding. But most importantly, unlike the core of the StarCraft 2 or even RTS game in general, the 1v1 mode, which is the fact that you just couldn't blame your teammate. Yeah, when you lose in the 1v1 RTS, and you couldn't just blame your teammate as if they were sabotaging your game or they were continuously feeding and all that. No, it's just you. This is the stress that brought along with it is really diminishing for many people who have played the game. In fact, it is quite destructive in my self-respect, I guess, or maybe the yeah, maybe the fun that I thought I would had or and all that. Yeah, it's just way out too stressed for a single person to play. But just for example, I took a League of Legends, the absolute cancer. Why it's still standing? Well, the major reason is the social aspect, but also the reason where you can just blame your teammate. And I'm going to drag okay, then okay, I need to put out a bit of metaphor. Okay, do you know the Warhammer Fantasy series? There's a race called Skaven. If you don't know what Skaven is, well, rats, a lot of rats. And in the story, the Skaven faction is actually pretty powerful. They're having some kind of World War One slash sci-fi thing as a weapon, and it's really powerful. And they are unending number. And maybe you do like this, and hey, maybe just other character have plot armor. Maybe the good faction had plot armor and all that. Then why the hell the Skaven didn't win? Well, that's the thing. Well, Skaven, especially the leader, constantly bickering amongst themselves. And although they technically could just conquer the whole world, but they didn't, just simply because they just continuously at each other's throat. And for example, like there's a kind of like funny story about the Skaven. Okay, and when they're going to attack a town, and when they're attacking, they were standing out three group, and one of them dug deep. Yet once they pop up, they just straight out got found and killed immediately because they didn't know where they're going. And second, just straight out teleport to another places. And third, didn't even move out, but instead constantly bickering about who should lead and kill half of the people within the group. And yeah, and also their leader maybe took away. Yeah, maybe they're constantly blaming each other for their failure and all that. Yeah, it kind of felt like League of Legends, you know. Yeah, the painful aspect of League of Legends is that you actually have to rely on your team. Yeah, maybe it's fun when you play with your friend, but if you know, maybe not playing with for another friend with with good communication, then yeah, it's a genuinely painful experience because maybe you accidentally click on the minion and you eat the minion, or only a minion, and took the slight economy, and then your teammate would just straight up blasting and how stupid you are, try to bickering, and just straight out, well, that's just straight out throwing the game. Yeah. Although they could win, but you know, average League of Legend player lack the self-reflection, just like the red, just like a goddamn red. Okay, so I had this game. The thing of League of Legend, you think like those who create the League of Legend, I thought they were, I believe the behind the process would be like they have read the book, and the book's name is How to Maximize Misery, and that's just like, oh yeah, I think of the game, yeah, you know the game called Dota. Yes, copy that, but make every other aspect worse in some degree, except the item buying, because just trust me, no one going to remember all the active item and all that. No, we just straight up, item and all that, simplified it, and then just straight out go with the marketing and sell our soul to the Chinese spyware, and then they just all that, yeah, and they just straight up create this absolute cancer of the universe. and now is cannot kill because every single run thing there will be the next faker, the pro player. Yeah, there will be going to be a next pro player and all that. Yeah, the sheer arrogance they had, and yeah, they also thinking they would be the best. They should be lead. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, the arrogance, the straight out, the toxic aspect of it. Yeah, yeah, and also this game also breeds Korean. Yeah, just like StarCraft. And is there anything I like to criticize about Koreans is the fact that, well, every single time when they play the game, they're always trying to find a way to destroy what's fun about the game, but in fact try to maximize the so-called efficiency and ruin the entire game because, well, in League of Legends, the balancing behind it always revolve around the very competitive aspect of it while forgot all the fun. Although, yeah, I didn't care about the recent patch or the new hero, so I only play like I don't know what kind of season it is because it's completely crap to me. So, and what about next? Yes, and about the League of Legend, and you could constantly blame your teammate. You could always blame that your enemy was doing script, or you having an incompetent teammate and enemy doing a script, and because of that, you always feel like, hey, next round is going to be the round. Next round is going to be be me carrying the whole team, being the hero of a whole group, that. And when you lose, you do it again. When you lose, you do it again because always have a good excuses. And when playing StarCraft or even other RTS game that didn't go for 2v2 mode or all that, constantly 1v1. When you always lose, you couldn't just blame that, be like, my teammate noob. No, then there's nothing. And maybe you could argue your enemies were hacking, but I rarely see that. So they constantly believe there was very minimal people who were hacking. Maybe because they're having the human decency, I guess. And although it was competitive, but majority of the time, the majority of the player base who play RTS going for the campaign and the casual aspect of the game. They is what make the game fun. Okay, and then the competitive will usually for the more hardcore player. And when they lose, they very likely will only have themselves to blame, and this is genuinely stressful because you couldn't expect what comes next. And the only thing you can know is what should you improving, what should you do, and all that. But yeah, unfortunately, the in the current day and age, self-reflection seems like really non-existent. Like quite literally, they're only thinking about they doing the best. Yeah. Okay, and then okay, aside from the fact that the social aspect and the lack of target to blame for your losers, and also one of the major aspect, but also there's also the second aspect is the pacing. Well, if you really take care of the like maybe League of Legends pro match or even Counter Strike match, they were usually a lot more fast paced. Like even in the pro match, they usually like constantly bickering in the first few minutes. While in StarCraft 2, you're only focusing on the small harassment and the base building aspect of it, and it mostly revolve around 2.5 minutes. And in the younger demographic, they were saying it as boring. Although, yeah, although maybe you didn't play a game, but well, I do, so I could share you a bit of my experience. The the game the game is hard, especially in the first 2.5 minutes. You had to pray the enemy didn't pull any trick out their sleeve. You had to scout. You had to do all that. It's important. It actually genuinely just interesting to play for me. Actually, at least in the first, it wasn't boring for me. But for others, it definitely does, especially when they didn't play the game. They didn't know what actually going on. So so most of the time you just usually get bored in the first few minutes. You just straight up building a base. You found it boring. You didn't take interest, and you didn't play the game, of course. And the pacing is just lack of speed, you could say. Although the StarCraft 2 actually once had even way slower pacing, like in the back in the Wings of Liberty, I believe. They were once unlike the right now, the beginning worker wasn't 12 but rather 6. and it took way slower to build out the base than actually get into the good fight. And it would definitely a lot of turn off for many people, especially those who just unfamiliar with the real-time strategy. Maybe you could argue some of the real-time strategy even faster, but I believe the StarCraft 2 definitely hit the, how do I say, the balance. Although it wasn't the perfect one, but it's still a pretty good one for me to play. And I didn't found bored when I played the game, but it's still quite engaging. Well, except for the viewer, of course, because well, I'm terrible at the game. Okay, and talk about the they talk about the pacing. Yeah, the average human reactions, like the concentration time, usually get a lot more shorter and shorter from time to time. And of course, you could also say you're kind of like a TikTok brand. You could say, God, I hate it. I hate to say the fucking what the fuck. Okay, okay. And talking about the so-called TikTok brain, you could say, or short attention span. Yeah, the attention span were quite short in the recent day and age, and RTS game even like as fast as like StarCraft 2.5 minute, it's just too much for those people. So even you see the recent caster usually will skip the first 2.5 minute because of it, just because the earlier maybe you just send some worker scouting and all that. That there's nothing else. You just see them building the base, and people usually would just watch something else other than this. Maybe you could argue that there were other pro game maybe like Rainbow Six Siege, like that. But usually Rainbow Six Siege also having the advantages of, well, although you maybe I didn't play much Rainbow Six Siege, but I do know in some cases you could really do some really early aggression, unlike StarCraft. Like in the early game of StarCraft 2, you only had the main base and 12 workers mining resources in the 2.5 minute building your base and all that. While in Rainbow Six, you could just, if you really want to, you could just rush, Aside from the scouting phase, you could just rush and genuinely caught your enemy off guard and all that. It seemed that tactic and the older version from time to time, I think actually quite engaging compared to StarCraft, of course. And the pacing genuinely is the part of where it worries the majority of the people, I guess, because, well, when you watch something, you want to watch something interesting, wasn't someone, for example, like if I really want to explain you the Warhammer stuff and talking about the tabletop rules, you would genuinely get bored. It kind of felt like it, like the early game. If you don't familiar with the StarCraft and what their races do, you just genuinely confused all the time. Unlike League of Legends, at least you can see some particle effect and all that. You can say like, yes, this is the magic guy. Yes, this is the warrior. He do melee damage and the flanker and all that. But in StarCraft 2, you genuinely just kind of confused all the time, especially when you watch other races like Zerg or Protoss. You could just see some bugs and all that. You just straight up confused. What the hell is creep? What the hell is the overload? What the hell the thing fly from the very beginning of the game and all that? And it is, the confusion, which is the next point we're talking about. The lack of accessibility, yes. The RTS game itself lack of accessibility for the very good reason, because in order to make the real-time strategy game unique in the first place, we had to implement different way for people to choose how do they want to play the game. And let's talk about the red alert, and from the Allies and Soviet faction, and even in the red alert 3, the Japan faction. Every single one of the faction have their own unique playstyle. Although I only played the campaign, but I really really like the Soviet for their the Kiros airship, just dropping bomb from the air. It's just very menacing and just fun to play. While while the Allied faction having their most OP unit is called cryocopter that could freeze enemy unit and shatter it by instant. Is fun. it's fun and interesting to play. But the problem is very obvious. It's the fact it just you go very confused how to have those units in the first place. Yeah, how to build out the base and all that. Although the game had tutorial, but it always kind of felt like didn't explain well enough. I'd rather say, like in StarCraft 2, you do have the campaign for each races, but it's kind of like a very bare bone, very basic aspect of it. So you just kind of do what they told, and you kind of understand, but you didn't quite get what the game was or is still is. So you could just straight up uninterested and assume that you didn't bought the campaign. Then you will either go forth for the co-op mode, or even play the game, play the versus mode against the real human being, and assume you have some knowledge about fighting the AI, the computer who the AI, you could say the AI of the game. You could play against the robot in the versus mode. But if you want to take things further, you could also play against the real human. And the first time you're against it, you bet the 9 out of 10 time you're going to be destroyed all the way. And because the game already lasted for 14 years in this as of right now, so there were lack of new blood to play against. Majority of the time, even at the silver level, they already have a very decent understanding of all the races. So you just felt like you're overwhelmed. You just feel like the stress and all that. You couldn't blame your teammate of like, hey, they are noob. My teammate are noob. This team being incompetent is not my fault. No, there's no one to blame. And the straight up confusion, and you see your enemy just straight up spawn a ton of unit that could just straight up destroy your base for no reason, and you just left confused. And the next thing you know, you're uninstalling StarCraft 2. And this is the usually thing that face a lot for a lot of people. Like when I just suggested to my friend, yeah, he played it for a bit and they immediately uninstalled it because the confusion of all. It just lack a proper guide and they didn't interest much in it. Because of that, I think it's a genuine shame for the lack of accessibility, but it's inevitable, especially when the RTS genre right now are not really good at appetize. How do I say, microtransaction is basically non-existent, because there is no way that you can implement it. You either build out the expansion like a Dawn of War or StarCraft, like or another campaign around that. Dawn of War is another RTS game that revolve around the universe of Warhammer 40k, something like that. And also, of course, a very few people play it. Of course, like the people that I knew didn't play it. So there's that, and the game having multiple expansion, having very good story, having quite good campaign. It's like Soulstorm, who the hell created this? But yeah, it's really solid game. But yeah, just the confusion because you have multiple races to play. Even at the base game you have 4, while at the Dark Crusade there were already 7 races for you to play. And although those were fun to play, but if you want to play competitively, it's kind of impossible and frustrating to play against the experienced player. So when I play the game, I also play against the versus AI and all that, but never play against anyone. Because I just knew whenever I suggested to everyone else, they would just straight out uninterested or confused because of the base building aspect. Even how do you control the unit, and the time to kill is very fast in majority of the RTS game. For example, they talk about StarCraft 2. Maybe you can create a huge army and all that, but suddenly your enemy just straight out attack, maybe with some skill, and your entire army is just straight out gone. It just died, and you just straight out get decimated because of it. And this is frustrating and painful to play. So yeah, the usually my point. But aside from that, there were also others that may be a lot more, how do I say, personal for me. For example, the hardware accessibility. Let's not talk about StarCraft 2, although StarCraft 2 as hardware accessibility is quite good. Like if you play at the lowest setting, that you could actually run the computer with ease, even in Mac or even Linux. I heard about Linux can, but I don't quite know. You could check it out. And other RTS game maybe just straight out the engine were terrible, the game was terrible and all that. Yeah, and it's just confusing and all that. Prefer play League of Legends. Prefer to play a fucking cancer on my head. Okay, so sorry for the strong language. I hate this game with a burning passion. Although the mobile game technically came from the RTS called Warcraft 3, and I never forgive what the Blizzard have done to this game for the remaster. Screw this. And yeah, and the Warcraft 3, the game definitely is fun to play and all that, but right now is dead. It is kind of dead, and all that, because there's and they have been creating a game, the custom mode Dota. It's fun to play and all that, and it's starting to create a MOBA. I don't think that's quite important for me because I never liked the hero aspect in general. Like even in the Warcraft 3 base game, I didn't quite like the game because of the hero aspect. Maybe because I just like to control all the unit and all that, instead of focusing on one hero that could change the tide of the battlefield. Especially just like League of Legends, I just kind of had the aspect. Or the recent game Valorant, another cancer, I guess, is arguable, is debatable, because unlike other, you technically could play better at your gun, focus on your gunplay, but it's not as better and Counter-Strike, but rather try to be a competitor and kind of fail, in my opinion, because they didn't, how do I say, yes, they only sell skin and all, they didn't focus on the game itself. Like the gunplay is absolutely horrendous. Like kind of felt like they decided to create as a crime against mankind for some reason. They just hate tactical shooter, but rather focus on the hero shooter. And hero shooter like Overwatch and all that, I already sick of it. And although the Overwatch is Overwatch animation, not just those that you think about, but some of the animation that created by Blizzard is quite good. But the game is kind of meh for me. I didn't took interest in it because, like I said, I hate the hero aspect of it. And just like the Valorant, they also had the hero aspect and having some wacky skill and all that. I didn't like that. And kind of crap. How do I say crap? No, not just crap. I kind of felt like, how do I say, unnecessary. Like quite unnecessary in many aspects of it. Although it's definitely what makes the game unique, but also feel like their focus right now is not quite good. Especially for the Riot. The Riot focus on the game Valorant wasn't quite good. And the game, I just say, they just focused on the hero balance and the skins. And of course, esports for no reason. Although, yeah, the reason is money. And of course, other than that, I didn't see much that what are other things they're trying to do. Instead of trying to, bring out some unique aspect in the game. I don't know, maybe create better maps, maybe actually have a good gun, like a good gunplay. No, because it's and maybe make less skin. Yes, make less skin. Why the hell create skin? Like what the fuck? Okay, shit, that's way too much. Yeah, but yeah, I absolutely hate it. I played it for a bit. And aside from the fact that Vanguard is basically a spyware, and aside from that, well, yeah, there's nothing for me in general to talk about Valorant. I hate it with a burning passion, quite so, because the gunplay, the movement, and the hero aspect is also quite terrible as of their new design hero. Just hey, look at this. We just read out. Create a hero who can, don't know, maybe invincible or something. Or maybe create a hero who can somehow steal life and be invincible for some reason. Yeah, something like that. I don't really like this. Like they only care about making heroes and all that. They don't make the gunplay feel good. There's very few on the tactical aspect, but rather focus on the hero aspect. Or I think calling the Valorant a tactical shooter kind of feel like an insult to the actual tactical shooter. Like even at the older version of Rainbow Six Siege, all the operators wasn't some wacky stuff, but rather pretty solid and quite interesting actually, quite interesting for them to play. I hope they could just stop making new operators as I made that. Like the tactical aspect is pretty good, and I hope they just focus on the gun balance, the map, and of course the hero balance, but the operator more correctly in the Rainbow Six Siege. But just straight out don't for a few years, you know, wait for the meta go still and try to adjust a bit and see what's work or not, instead of trying to create a lot of unnecessary operators, because right now there were a lot of skill overlaps in Rainbow Six Siege, and in the in the competitive aspect it's kind of uninteresting right now, because band pack and all that is just straight out boring, and you can feel unnecessary. So yeah, the something like a thing I talk about is that they usually focus on many things like a so-called hero, the unique aspect of the operator and all that, and trying to squeeze it out more and more, but they didn't forget. They already forget what's fun for the game. Like although yeah, the early game of Valorant, you kind of felt like, oh okay, yeah, the hero is kind of interesting. Like every single one of the agent having some unique skill for certain things. Although they have legit warhead, I kind of wonder why they do that. Maybe for scouting purposes, you know. But yeah, it's genuinely okay for me. I think I will give it a try, and having genuine fun until, well, as of right now, I just straight out uninterested because of the still too many hero for, very different thing, but yes, so similar and uninteresting too. So yeah, so while the StarCraft 2 didn't has the aspect, like the real time strategy in general don't have that aspect, but the problem is people really like those hero stuff, uh, and I just don't. And a lot of people just sort of disagree with me and call me a wussy or something. I don't know. And yeah, and the aspect of it, hero aspect of it, is definitely one of the attracts people, because well, heroes are special in many cases. Like you could just turn the tide of the battlefield in your with your skills and all that. But I think they were also fun with, you know, controlling bunch of army. They were, you could call general. No, not quite the general in terms of rank, but rather just straight out generic. Yes, the generic unit, like just controlling all your unit and all that. Controlling the battlefield, or yeah, just like Counter Strike. Although the Counter Strike is also has its own problem, like anti cheat and anti cheat and anti cheat issues, and yeah, but and the sub tick, yeah, I felt like half of my shot didn't even hit, although yeah, I really sure that I hit it. I don't know why, maybe because I'm terrible at the game. Aside from that, the game is that at its core fun. It's because of the fact that you are not playing against hero. You don't need to do so-called ban pick. You don't have to do counter play against the thing they don't like, but rather you just only have like 4 utility as far as I remember. The decoy, well, it felt like it never existed, and the gun was quite basic, and I fill in specific roles. For example, a lot more like, first is the handgun. Aside from the iconic like UPS and the Glock 18, but also like a P250 for more economic value, like because the gun had armor penetration, so if you're really good at aiming, you could just kill your enemy within 1 or 2 shots, and you could just grab their gun, trying to turn the tide of the battle. Or maybe you could like to go for something more like a 5.7 or even CG75 for defensive, and while the Tech 9 for offensive, and all that. You could just use flash, smoke, molotov, and grenade. And once I say that, you probably a lot of people already familiar with it. But when I talk about like feedback, psionic storm, steam pack, and all that, those were the skill in StarCraft 2, and people just very confused, like what the hell is this thing do? Yeah. So yeah, the reason why it doesn't popular, yeah, and back to the point, is the lack of social aspect, lack of marketing, and the lack of the lack of accessibility, and of course they are straight up because it didn't cater to the majority of the player, especially those who may be younger and trying to, you know, instead of trying to play something very, how do I say, very isolated, you could say, because the game I usually play like StarCraft 2, no one can play with me because I'm focusing on the 1v1 aspect of the game, and in the game itself I just straight up feel isolated because no one can and will play with me because of that, because they did not because they didn't want to, but because they just straight up can't. And most of the time you maybe have some friend, maybe they play League of Legends too, maybe they play League of Legends, and they just straight up could just like, hey, maybe we could team up together and then we play together and all that, and you could just open Discord and having some good communication, or even in Counter Strike you could do that too. But in StarCraft or even RTS game in general, you just can't, because they a lot of game reason why they flop is because they're focusing on the 1v1 aspect of the game. I mean, the casual fun is definitely required, and of course you know the custom aspect of it, although it's really charming, but uninteresting for majority of people because it's just too tedious. Just for example, talking about the game New Vegas, for our New Vegas, yes, a bit off topic, of course, off topic a lot, but talking about the game like For Our New Vegas, the game is actually one of the best RPG game that I ever played, better than the Bethesda made Fallout. And yeah, the game is quite good, but the problem is the technical aspect of it. Yeah, I think that's a major reason why that it didn't still get a lot of the recognition that it deserved back in the day, back in when it released, is because solely due to the technical aspect of it, the game crashed half the time. There were a lot more notable bugs, and one of the nightmare that I actually had is okay, is someone who familiar with the game. There's a unit called Death Claw, giant lizard slash dinosaur, I guess. A horrible unit. They're very tanky, do a lot of damage and all that. And the problem with the engine is sometimes I slowed in there, got stuck, and just completely break the immersion. You were like, hey, I going through the quarry junction. I going to dodge off the Death Claw and all that. But all of a sudden you saw it just kind of clip in the wall. Yeah, it's funny and all that. Yeah, you just really break the immersion, and you definitely feel the game. It definitely has something wrong with it. And the next thing you know, your game crash. And when you're trying to mod, it just real tedious. Yeah, kind of similar as the custom, although custom is a lot more accessible as of now in the StarCraft 2, but it's still kind of tedious because you have to download this, and maybe if your game require a lot of players, you have to make it public and wait for people, and yeah, it's just real tedious and time consuming. So majority of the player just real not interested in it, although maybe with enough traction, still quite active, but not as active as you thought. Like not like kind of like a billion of people playing or even millions, but yeah, kind of like a few. Sometimes I see thousand, maybe roughly thousand. I guess I don't know. Maybe the best, or maybe I just build out educated guess. So yeah, the the custom aspect is too vague and just straight up tedious to play. Just like you're modding a For New Vegas, you're trying to make this game playable. It's just straight up tedious to play, and because of it, there were very few people who took interest in it. And talking about that is about the reason why the real-time strategy game wasn't quite popular in Malaysia, although in the world in general. Too, in some aspect, there were overlapping points, but in Malaysia, the reason is the digital gap and all that, but also because because they just really straight out let's focus on the personal aspect in gaming, but rather the team aspect in gaming, kind of like a football game, like every single one of the member have a specific role and all that. While when you're playing StarCraft 2, you kind of feel like you're playing a chess against another player. But aside from the fact that chess having different unique aspect and all that. And it's very likely they also had to, play piano with your feet in metaphorical ways. Yeah, because the multitasking is very tedious. And even as of right now, the best I could get is the platinum, and it wasn't even close to the higher rank aspect of the in the StarCraft 2. They definitely know the high skill ceiling. It could just, you know, and aside from that, like League of Legends also have a very high skill ceiling. The reason why it could still standing is because, well, like I said, just like bunch of red men, they could just blame their mistake on others and constantly thinking, hey, I could do better. If that guy didn't throw the game, I could do way better than that. Or maybe, hey, if the enemy didn't on script, yeah, maybe we could win. So yeah, you grind and all that, so you didn't feel like you genuinely stress a lot, because always most of the time the mistake is on your enemy, on your ally, or on your ally and your enemy. So yeah, this genuinely difficult. And when facing other, like, how do I say, other people, facing other people while talking about the game, and it's just going to create a snowball effect. Yeah, for example, I actually talked the game with my friend, and they were just met with confusion, like, what the hell is StarCraft 2? I never heard of the game. And while they when I talk about them, like maybe about the League of Legends, they were like, ah, yeah, the hero, the MOBA, yeah, they all that. Or even talking about Counter Strike, they were very easy recognize. I think the only reason why Valorant is also quite recognizable is because the marketing they have. Although, yeah, like I said, I wouldn't give a shit about it. Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, now to pray, then no one will hear me swear a lot. But yeah, uh, yeah, they hate the hero aspect, but people love it, and also a genuine turn off for people because the lack of the team aspect in game. Like you're trying to play a chess compared to playing a football, and when you fail, the entire thing is on you. It's because that you definitely done something wrong. Although you could just straight out, like, blame the game balance and all that, but in the end it's only your vote to the reason why you lose. And because of that, that you just straight out don't like the game, and because of that, that you're even less likely to promote the game to other people. I like League of Legends. Like my friend, one of my friends actually quite play a lot League of Legends, and while we're still in touch, he still dragged me in a League of Legends game. Although I hate it, but I play support. He play ADC and all that, or maybe he plays younger. All I did is just trying to yeah, have fun with him. But aside from the friend, yeah, even as I hate the League of Legends with a burning passion, I still have fun with my friend as long as I playing with my friend. But when I playing StarCraft 2, if I actually lose, I feel frustrated, of course. And genuinely, well, in some cases, maybe, uh, how do I say? Yes, telling my, well, my presumed enemy, yeah, the enemy will once play in last round, tell him to keep his family safe. Yeah, KYS, keep your family safe. Yes. So yeah, something that happened. Unfortunately, the game is frustrating, and back then I was just a dumb teenager. So yeah, so yeah, that. And while playing League of Legends, maybe you have a friend, maybe you could just bickering to each other. Maybe it's still fun to play. And well, although yeah, yeah, even if the solo League of Legends, you saw a lot of streamers were like, "Hey, this game is stupid. This game is not fun." And the next thing you know is that they just straight out click the continue button. And yeah, and this happens a lot of time. And unlike StarCraft 2, maybe you just see someone who just rage and think it's game is unfun, and next thing you know is that they just straight up quit the game, quit the stream, and just go maybe grab a drink or something. Yeah, in some cases they just straight up quit the game. Like some of the StarCraft 2 pro player that I knew, they didn't, they just straight out jumped. They didn't continue their career in 2024. They jumped into League of Legends because of, well, the popularity, especially after what the Blizzard, the controversy and all that. Although I still really want to focus on the game aspect, the fun of it, but yeah, it is genuinely shameful for what the company has done. I think the StarCraft 2 should deserve more, instead of the, I don't know, maybe Diablo Immortal. Screw that game. They think deserve to be in hell, like quite literally, and even worse than hell in some cases. uh, it's just pain, man. And whenever I play the game, I also think about the fact that, yeah, I'm definitely destined to be lonely, because unlike other, like StarCraft 2 require a lot of concentration, a lot of effort into it. If you want to play good at it, at yeah, to be good at it, you have to put an amount of concentration and time into it. And while others maybe have fun with friends in the horrendous game called League of Legends, while I still have to, not just grind, so-called grind the game, but rather also had to learn from it. And learning is a really hard aspect in game in for me, because majority of the time, when you lose, like in multiplayer game, you could just blame your enemy and all that, and you could just straight up having a better teammate in the next round, or hell, even you have your enemy doesn't counter pick you and all that, so maybe you have a good round because of it. Although it's quite rewarding, when you win, is really rewarding, like after your learning, your grinding, and your experience, you're growing. Yeah, the process is fun, but it also having its own challenges. And you know what it felt like? Yeah, it kind of felt like you're actually learning something, and you're actually learning something in school. Maybe you're studying, for me, like I'm currently at FCI, I'm studying. It kind of felt like that aspect relate a lot more to StarCraft 2 rather than, maybe some League of Legends and Counter Strike stuff. Because unlike other, maybe when you just died, maybe because of your poor positioning, or your poor aim and all that. But no, in StarCraft 2, when you lose, it's definitely something very at its core fundamental. You have something wrong with it, and you need to improve it. And this is the pain. This is genuinely stressful to play, and it's painful to play, of course. And because of it, a lot of people quit before they actually get good in the game, and just think the game is unfun, unbalanced, and all that. And it just straight up quit at all and decided to play other games. They are a lot more, more catered to the, me blame on teammate, my teammate bait, enemy hack, those kind of stuff. Unlike in StarCraft 2, your majority of the time when you lose, you could only get yourself to blame. And whenever you play, you also feel like you waste a lot of time, because, unlike others, you didn't have fun with a friend, or even have fun with a stranger, but rather just straight out stare at the screen, look at the losing screen, and at some occasional cases, you click replay and see what's wrong. Aside from that, you only feel a sense of defeat. Obviously, because you lose. Even when you win, you always didn't feel like you actually reach the so-called the fun, I guess. For some people, maybe because when they win, they didn't they're already exhausted after what they done. Microing your base, spawn unit at the right time, managing your base and all that. And it just straight out too stressful to even celebrate the fact that you have won. Although it's still a genuinely fun process after, you maybe you still have fun after you win, that like actually learning, when you're learning something and make some progress, you still feel fun. But unlike others, it didn't come as quick as you perceived that it would be. And although I already said that it was very underrated, very unpopular in Malaysia because of those, but if you still took interest in it, I have some advice. First is, lower your expectation at the very minimum as possible, and know that every time when you lose, you definitely need to learn, and try to improve on it. And as time goes on, you would definitely have some pretty solid base building aspect and your army building aspect, and of course the micromanagement and macro management. And it will and you're slowly learning, slowly growing, and finally you won a round. Yeah, this is where your how do I say, your fun will come, and the fruit of your labor have finally grew. But it just took too long for many people, especially like I said, the so-called TikTok brain, or short attention span. So yeah, the because of those aspects, it was tedious and unfun. And while others, maybe like League of Legends, maybe you have a very cheap pentakill, and we're like, yeah, I got a pentakill, wow, yeah. But when you just actually win as a StarCraft 2, you just straight up feel defeated even if you won. You feel defeated when you lose. You even feel more defeated when you won. Yeah, because it was like, oh my god, they were close, man. That they were really close. Oh, oh my god, how do I win? Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that happens from time to time. So you had to get used to the aspect that you definitely took a lot of time than other game. Like you wasn't going to be like learn a hero being a one-trick pony, but rather that you actually need to learn the basic fundamental of all races, know their strength and weakness, and know your enemy build, know your build, and know what your main race is. And finally play and understanding and base building, scouting, and harassing, and finally the actual fight. And after you win, you actually will have a lot more fun than actually playing League of Legends and all that. Although it depends, of course it depends. But to me, yeah, it's nothing more fun than actually winning something when it's definitely 100%. You know, your achievement rather than yes, because my teammate carrying. Yes, it's because the fact that the elo system has gone mercy on me, and so called that. No, that's just because you are competent enough to win. That's all. You are more competent than your enemy, and you are way better than your enemy in the technical and the understanding of the game. So you win, and you just straight out, yeah, you feel happy and all that. And the next thing you know, maybe you're trying to go a lot more further, maybe you're not. It depends, because life is a lot more thing rather than games. And when you're trying to do the game, I'd rather say is first is just straight out give out the aspect that you definitely have someone to play with. Like another thing is human is a social nature in nature. Yeah, human is a social animal in nature. So because of this, they usually try to play with someone that StarCraft 2 is definitely the exact opposite. When you're trying to play the base aspect of the game, is like the 1v1 aspect of the game. You just give up all your hope in talking to talking to your ally and all that. No, you only have enemy. Maybe you can type out some good luck, have fun and all that. And after either you win or you lose, maybe type GG or something for a good game. Yeah, and all that. Yeah, there's only that. Yeah, that's all. And usually the next thing you'll know is you're grinding for the game. Maybe you will succeed, maybe you will not. Maybe you will give up halfway. And whatever happened, usually you just straight off feel like, yeah, I should really play something else. And because of that, you maybe will feel defeated, maybe you feel uninterested already because of it. And it's okay to quit and all that, but still, yeah, that's the reason why it's so underrated in Malaysia. Those aspects were just straight out too overlap. How do I say? Overwhelming the negative aspect of, you know, the reason why you shouldn't play the game is too much. The reason for you not playing the real time strategy game is just straight out too much, because uh, it just straight out overweights the pros. Although the pros itself actually has its own charm and all that, it's still pretty it's still pretty alluring, but not as alluring as play something else, because you're going to get destroyed a lot. And if you really lack the self reflection that you require, then yeah, you basically we always stuck at a very low level. Always felt like, hey, it was a waste of time. I didn't want to play this game. I want to play with my friend. Maybe some League of Legends, or even the co-op in StarCraft 2 and all that. I think is yeah. So yeah, when you're trying to play the game, yeah, it's really little thing that I could talk about this, because although I play the game a lot, but in general I still pretty how do I say, ill educated and not quite well educated in the game. It's not like I'm actually reached the master or even grandmaster league or something. it just they I'm just right out stuck at platinum because I don't have time to learn because I currently already studying in university. I have project to work on a lot of things just like time itself is the biggest enemy ever. This is very yeah, the time itself, yes. Like when you're young, you're definitely trying to play something else, like the more competitive, like League of Legends and all that, or even just play casual. While StarCraft 2 in the 1v1 aspect didn't have the casual, didn't have the so-called normal mode, although it had unranked, but it's no one plays it, and also the yeah damn it. There's nothing nothing much else I could talk about. While it's still fun to talk well, in front of the microphone. But yeah, I think my time is out. I'm about to go. And thank you whoever listening to this. And also, how do I say? Yes, just have fun in games. Hard to do, especially way harder in the cancer called League of Legends. But still, I hope you still have fun with your game and all that. And of course, thank you whoever listening to this. Yeah, yeah, you guys were just the basic motivation for me to keep doing this stream. Although they were currently, at least on my screen, no one listening to it. Just like RTS itself, no one too interested in it. Because of this, there's an end my stream, and I wish to see you all next week. Goodbye.